Good day everyone, my name is Glenwell Lacaran Doronila. I'll be the one who report the history of mathematics. And my topic is all about the number recording of Egyptian and Greeks and hieroglyphic presentation of numbers. In number recording of Egyptian and Greeks, it contains the history of Herodotus. The writing of history as we understand it, a Greek invention, and foremost among early Greek historians was Herodotus. Herodotus was born at Halicarnassus. In early life, he was involved in political troubles, forced to exile to the island of Samos, and thence to Athens. From there, Herodotus set out on travels, and they occupied many years. It is assumed that he made three principal journeys, perhaps a merchant, collecting materials, and recording his impressions.
In the Black Sea, he sailed all the way up the west coast to the Greek communities at the mouth of Dnieper River in what is now Ukraine, and then along the south coast to the foot of the Caucasus. In Asia Minor, he traversed modern Syria and Iraq and traversed down the Euphrates, possibly as far as Babylon. In Egypt, he ascended the Nile River from its delta to somewhere near Aswan, exploring the pyramids along the way. Around 443 BC, Herodotus became a citizen in Taurium, in southern Italy, a new colony planted under Athenian auspices. In Taurium, he seems to have passed the last year of his life, involving the almost entirely unearthing the history of Herodotus, a book larger than the Greek prose work before it. The reputation of Herodotus as a historian stood highly even in his own day. In Athens, some 20 years before his death, Herodotus recited complete portion of his history to admiring audience, and we are told has voted an unprecedentedly large sum of public money in recognizing of the merit of his work. The object of his history, as Herodotus conceived it, required him to tell all what he had heard but not necessarily to accept all it as fact. He at least stated, "My job is to report what people say, not to believe it all, and this principle is meant to apply to my whole work." Herodotus interpreted the state of the world at his time as a result of change in the past and felt that the change could be described. It is the attempt that earned for him, and not any of the earlier writers, of course, the honorable title Father of History. Herodotus took the trouble to describe Egypt at the great length, for he seems to have been more enthusiastic about the Egyptians than about almost any other people that he met. Like most visitors to Egypt, he was distinctly aware of the exceptional nature of the climate and topography along the Nile. For anyone who sees Egypt without having heard a word about it before, most preserve that Egypt is an acquired country, the gift of the river. The famous passage of paraphrase to read, "Egypt is the gift of Nile," apply some of the great geographical fact about the country. Between 3500 and 3100 BC, the self-sufficient agricultural communities that clung to the strip of land border the Nile had gradually coalesced into larger units. There were only two kingdoms of Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. This is the map of Herodotus, the habitable world according to him. Then, about 3100 BC, these regions were united by military conquest from the south by a ruler named Menes, an exclusive Gur who stepped forth into history to head the long line of pharaohs. Protected from external invasion by the same deserts that isolated her, Egypt was able to develop the most stable and longest lasting of the ancient civilization. Where Greece and Rome counted their supremacy by the century, Egypt counted hers by the millennium. A world organization of 32 dynasties stretched from the unification of Upper and Lower Kingdom of Menes to Cleopatra's encounter with the Asap in 31 BC. Long after the apology of ancient Egypt, Napoleon was able to ehoard his very veteran with the glory of its past. Standing in the shadow of the Great Pyramid of Giza, he cried, "Soldiers, 4th centuries are looking down upon you." Hieroglyphic representation of numbers is just like ancient Egyptian writing. Egyptian numbers are represented by hieroglyphs. Each hieroglyph represents a multiple of 10. The next largest number of 10 times larger. Hieroglyphic number is read as the sum of the characters' value.
As soon as the unification of Egypt under a single leader became an accomplished fact, a powerful and extensive administrative system began to involve. The census had to be taken, taxes imposed, an army maintained, and so forth, all of which required reckoning and relative large numbers. One of years of the second dynasty was named year of the occurrence of the numbering of all large and small cattle of the north and south. As early as 350 BC, as early as 3500 BC, the Egyptians had a fully developed number system and would allow counting to count ended with only the introducing from time to time a new symbol. This is born out of the mace head of King Narmen, one of the most remarkable of the ancient world, now in museum at Oxford University.
This photo is taken from the Great Stone Maquette of Narmen, which J.E. Cable discovered at Hierakonpolis in 1898. This is a summary of the spoil taken by Narmen during these wars. Namely, cows 400,000, goats 1,422,000, and captives 120,000. Near the beginning of dynastic age, Narmen, whose motorized suppose may have been the legendary Menes, the restorer of the United Egypt nation, was obliged to punish the rebellious Libyans in the West Delta. He lived in the temple and Hierakonpolis, a magnificent state palace, the famous Narmen Palace, and ceremonial maquette, both of which bear scenes testifying to his victory. The maquette preserved forever the official record of King's accomplishment, for the inscription boasts of the taking of 120,000 prisoners and register of the captive animals 400,000 oxen and 1,422,000 goats. In one of the tombs near the Pyramid of Giza, there have been found hieroglyphic number symbol in which the number 1 is represented by a single vertical stroke or a picture of staff, a kind of horseshoe or hellbone sign. It shares a collective symbol to replace 10 separate strokes. In other words, the Egyptian system was decimal 1 from Latin sim to 10, which used counting by number of 10. Jaten is often found among ancient people, as a base of their number system is undoubtedly attributable of humans, teenagers, and to our habit counting on them. For the same reason, a system much like our numeral I was almost everywhere used to express the number 1. Special pictographs were used for each new power of 10, up to 10 million. 100 by a curved rope, 1,000 by a lotus owner, 10,000 by a upright bendinger, 100,000 by a tadpole, 1,000,000 by a person holding up to 2 hands as if in great astonishment, and 10 million by a symbol something conjectured to be a rising sun. These are the example of number symbol of Egyptians. Other numbers could be expressed by using these symbols additively. This is the number represented by a set symbol is the sum of numbers represented by the individual symbols, which each character repeated up to 9 times. Usually, the direction of writing was from right to left, with the larger unit listed rest, with the other in order of importance. Thus, the scribe would write to indicate our number. Here are some examples. Occasionally, the larger unit were written on the left, in which case the symbol were turned around to face the direct from which the writing began. Literal space was saved in placing the symbol in 2 or 3 rows, one above the other. Because there was a different symbol for each power of 10, the value of number represented was not affected by the order of the hieroglyphs within a group. The examples are in the picture. All stood of number 1, 2, 3, 2. Thus, the Egyptian method of writing number was not a positionally system, a system in which one and the same symbol was different significance, depending on its position in numerical representation. Addition and subtraction caused little difficulty in Egyptian number system. For addition, it was necessary only to collect symbols and exchange 10 like symbols for the next higher symbol. This is how the Egyptian would have added, say, 345 and 678. The example is in this picture. Subtraction was performed by the same process in reverse. Sometimes, borrowing was used wherein a symbol of larger number was exchanged for 10 lower order symbols to provide enough of the smaller number to be subtracted.
Hieroglyphic
As in this
presentation of numbers.
case, although the Egyptians had symbols of numbers, they had a general information notation of arithmetical operations. In the case of the famous Serene Papyrus, dating about 1650 BC, the scribe did not represent addition and subtraction in the hieroglyphs, and which resemble the legs of a person coming and going. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you learned something.